This is Tom Aberly. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey. I had to get my computer upgraded, but now I can do backgrounds and stuff too, which I couldn't do before. So I can do this.
Oh, cool. My laptop from school doesn't allow me to do the backgrounds at all because it doesn't have the right resolution. It's an older model, and it doesn't have, even if I put it on the highest one, I played around with it. It's not good enough for it. So
yeah, well, see, mine the volume wasn't working, and I used this for court. So my IT guy had to play with it, and when he was playing with it, it happened to also make it that I could do backgrounds. Like, oh, cool. I should take them off before court, though.
Shannon, I don't remember what it was, but the other day, if I remember, I will email you. But I was thinking about asking you something. I should have written it down. And right now, I'm just so overwhelmed. But if I remember, I'll email you.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I know that.
Oh yeah, Shannon, we have somebody that we know in common. Do you remember Roy Hardy and Tammy Hardy? They were in the Louisville Youth Group on the board.
Oh, yeah.
With you.
Yeah.
They're both really good friends of mine.
Good. And actually on the board, I was just there all the time.
I think he still is involved to some extent because he's getting his doctorate in I forgot what it's called, but it has to do with diversity management or something like that.
Well, good.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I've been playing phone tag with somebody since this morning, and finally got a hold of that person. So I appreciate you waiting for me a little bit. Hey Amir, if you want to unmute for a minute, I'll let you introduce yourself. So SBDM knows I did send the email invite to our entire staff. We are an open meeting. And because we're talking about the structure of the school day. So Amir, do you want to introduce yourself?
Amir Dizdarovich. I'm a new engineering academy teacher, teaching engineering 1 and 2.
Awesome, thanks, man. All right, so I just let somebody in with 779 phone number. Can you tell me who you are?
It's Sabina. Hi.
Hey, Sabina, good to see you. Or good to hear you. It doesn't look like you're able to make it through on the video chat, huh?
Well, to be frank, my office is like a revolving door, people coming in and out, and just want to make sure that if they come in, that it's not like.
Okay, that's not a problem.
Yes.
I'm just taking attendance real quick here. All right. Looks like Miss Beckley told me she may not be able to make it, and then also Miss Parker let me know that she may not be able to make it either with workloads and stuff. So we'll go ahead and get started if you're all okay with it. I sent you an email. So welcome. This is the August 17th to 20. I'm going to restart. Hi, welcome to the Atherton SBDM Council meeting for August 17, 2020. It's 2:04 p.m. and we're going to go ahead and get started. On the agenda, we have policy review, and I thought the first policy, the most urgent one, is our structure of the school day policy. Technically our policy says we're on a 7-period day, and we will remain on that during NTI. However, when those classes are offered are the things that I just want to talk about collectively. We don't actually have to make this particular structure policy because we're still meeting the way the policy is written, but I would like to have SBDM endorsement on the final product before I push it out officially to our staff and to our parents. Is that cool? So if I'm going to go ahead and share screen with
So I'm not ignoring you. I'm looking at the other screen. My other computer.
okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen. I shared the survey results with you in a separate attachment in the email, and I'll upload those with our minutes. Our staff had talked about it. I had introduced the district examples to our staff at the beginning of last week, and then they met several times throughout last week looking at what their NTI responsibilities are going to look like from a curriculum standpoint, instruction, assessment and grading, building a culture, and frankly, just dealing with the logistics of having what we're calling synchronous instruction. This is like a synchronous meeting, right? It's a synchronous interaction, face-to-face virtually. Asynchronous, not synchronous, would be time when students are working independently or in small groups, but not during an assigned time on their learning. And what you see, what I created for you here is the way that that I would convey this to our students and to our parents in the way of what they should be expecting from a student and parent perspective. Our staff have talked about, our staff would have a slightly different table here because it would talk about office hours and things. But I mainly wanted to share with you what we're looking at. So we're looking at a 7-period day with each class would meet twice a week for a minimum of 30 minutes each, up to 1 hour each. So I went ahead and assigned 1 hour per period that would be meeting. They'd be meeting on what we call maroon and gold days or A and B days. Those days, in talking with the staff, we felt it was best to have them happen on a consistent day of the week, Monday and Thursday for maroon, and Tuesday and Friday for gold. Then the 7 periods would meet between Monday and Tuesday. All 7 periods would meet once. 4 of them would meet on Monday and 3 of them would meet on Tuesday. Now because of the way our teachers' schedules work, and frankly our students our seniors who do work-based learning, and then we have things like band and orchestra where we share teachers, and frankly even one of our world language teachers we share with another school. We had to be very careful about when those periods were offered. So we kind of have like morning classes in the morning on both days. That's why it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 over the course of Monday and Tuesday are in the morning, versus 5, 6, and 7, which would be in the afternoon each of the 2 days. So a student's experience would look like this. We're given a recommendation that they get their day started at 7:30, where they're checking their Google Classrooms for assignments and making sure that they're staying on top of any announcements. We are encouraging, I had some feedback from parents who are saying we really need some idea of what type of physical activity expectations. Now, these aren't for credits or for an actual grade, but I think it's important that we're conveying this is what we are recommending in the way of physical activity as a daily routine. I think it's going to help with their physical and mental health, as well as their academic engagement. So that's where you see those recommended activities placed in there. But so they would have up to 1 hour of instruction from 8 to 9 a.m. And then they would have a short break for a restroom break, as well as a mental break, and then get back on track and do another 1 hour, up to 1 hour, 1 hour maximum of instruction in Google Meets. Then there's a break there for teachers and for students alike. I think it's important that we have time for students to engage in independent activity, working with their peers in group work, having time to do the things that they need to do. And frankly, there's going to be a lot of their own family life that they will be responsible for managing as well. And then we'll come back at 12:15 again for both those days, and you see what that looks like. On Mondays and Thursdays, they would have one more period at 1:30 to 2:30. On Tuesdays and Fridays, they would have their Google Meets. Their synchronous time would end at 1:15, and they have more time for completing learning activities. It was a recommended best practice, and I think all our teachers liked this idea too, from a standpoint of having time for kids to take care of learning activities, for teachers to be having time to collaborate with one another, to prepare for the NTI instruction. I'll tell you, it's a lot more labor intensive to prepare a 15-minute lesson that is pre-recorded than it is to teach for an hour. It's a lot of work. So we recognize the amount of time and frankly the learning curve that this is going to be for both our students and our staff, even compared to last spring, because we are really up in the game for NTI 2.0 in the way of academic expectations. So the calendar so I had a survey that I sent out to staff that had a whole bunch of, I had them giving feedback and voting on different elements of this structure of the school day, and the majority, as you saw, if you want to pull up the survey results yourself, you'll see indicated a desire to keep every Wednesday available for asynchronous instruction, both for the students and the staff needs in preparing for this NTI environment. All right, I babbled for about 7 minutes straight there, and I think I got the main part of it that I wanted to talk about. So I'm gonna open it up for, I'm gonna stop sharing because you got this by email. I'm gonna stop screen sharing, and I'd like to open this up for any Q&A or feedback or comments, because this is still unofficial until we give the thumbs up, and then I'll push it out to everyone.
Tom,
Yes.
does this have to be approved by JCPS, or is that already been done?
That's already been done.
Okay,
I asked
wanted to double check.
Yeah, I asked if this general model was acceptable. I was taking it before the SBDM, and it went all the way up the chain and came back down, and they said that this model is acceptable.
Okay, cool.
I noticed it said no Google Meets on Wednesday. What about teachers having office hours and the students requesting Google Meets?
Yeah, that would be fine. I just wanted to make it clear for kids to know that they're not going to have a regularly signed synchronous time.
I was going to
Okay.
note that it says conferences, but maybe add a little bit more clear thing that like students can reach teachers, like, because at a glance it looks like, teachers are not available at that time.
Okay. And that's something that I'll be talking with staff about this week, and I'll push that out to our community as well. And that is, what does teacher availability look like from a student's perspective, and then what do office hours look like from a teacher's perspective? One thing I want to share with you, I'm worried about for our staff, is that they're going to become the 24/7 available. That at least it'll be perceived by students or parents that way, that they should be available 24/7. And because a common term we've been using, that sometimes it feels like we're dealing with vampires who spend their nights awake and active, and that's when they're most available. But we also need to recognize we need to get everyone onto a routine here, and knowing when they should be, when they can be available for students, and when students know that staff should be and are available for them.
And is it still going to be open to staff that need that family time, say from 10 to noon, to have afternoon hours or evening hours?
Yes, that's a separate issue. That's why I didn't put that in here, because I didn't want to convolute the two things. When it comes to teachers and their office hours, which you notice I didn't even put that in in this, because this is what students are getting. What staff will get is they is the same thing that I've been sharing. They have a set schedule of when they have to be in synchronous instruction. Then there's that time in the middle of the day that if they want to schedule their office hours in the evening because they feel like that's most accessible for students as well as for them, then they can do that, but they'll have to put it in, they'll have to notify, regardless of when your office hours are, there'll be multiple layers of notification so that any people can't say, hey, I've been trying to get a hold of Mr. Stutz for a week now, and nobody can figure out when his office hours are. That's not going to be a problem because we know we'll have multiple layers of it posted, and students and parents alike will know when they can get a hold of a teacher or when a teacher should be available for communicating.
Okay.
Can I ask maybe the most obvious question, but I just don't think I know the answer to it because I'm seeing this for the first time.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you have them divided into two groups. You have the maroon and the gold, right? And so
Yes.
one, it says Monday and Thursday, and then you have, so Monday, and then you have Wednesday, is asynchronous day, right? But what does the maroon group do on Tuesday and Friday? Do they have anything to do, or is that like a free day?
No, that's okay. Thank you for asking. So a student is not part of a maroon group or a gold group. They have 7 periods. So their 7 periods are broken into a maroon day and a gold day.
Oh, got it. Okay.
That's okay. Now, I think it's been mentioned, that we're gonna, with the start of when we go immediately into 3 weeks of four-day weeks, back to back. The first week is a 4-day week because we start on a Tuesday. The second week is a 4-day week because of Oaks being moved to September. And then the week after that is a 4-day week because of Labor Day. So I did survey our staff and ask them about the start of the school year because that's going to result in one of the days, one of the maroon days and gold days being off. I do want to let you know that, I think our staff are trying to err on the side of flexibility with time right now because honestly, there's a huge learning curve with the Google Meets and what this is going to look like and the accessibility and availability. So my impression in understanding the survey results as well as listening to some of our staff is that they would rather err on the side of flexibility rather than trying to get a lot of stuff in at the very beginning. So I don't know if that was something you wanted to provide any feedback or comment on. Mike, I think I interrupted you though before.
Yeah. My understanding of everything is that I'm still intending to have a 5-day class week for them. And the first day would be before we meet where they'll have I'm doing a flipped classroom kind of thing to where they'll have a video of me explaining a target. And then when we meet in person, that's when we're going to put it together and practice it a little bit. And then on the next day, they'll kind of review a little bit and get a little bit more content for the next meeting. And then by the end of the week, then they'll have a summary. So even on non-synchronous days, they'll still have some activity to do most of the time, but it won't be as heavy as the days that we do meet synchronously. Is that correct? That's okay,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I think, and that's a really good point to make, Mike. When we think about it from both a teacher viewpoint and a student's viewpoint, what is a reasonable amount of work? What are we expecting in the way of learning progression and learning activities for our students? We have to come up with reasonable expectations, but also reasonable progression because we're going to be on this method for education until we get further notice. So we can't really plan that this will end after 6 weeks. Unlike last school year, in the spring, we were just saying, hey, we know we have this amount of time to get through. What's the best way to do it? Now we have to lay a proper foundation with the unknown, the uncertainty of the future.
I think we're going to have some good things from this experience spilling over into the real world after.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping there's a lot of things we're learning that will provide for a much better experience when we do go back face to face. Ms. Terrell, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to explain to the parents why we kept, even on short weeks, Wednesday off, at least from my perspective, because it seems like oh, wait a minute, my kid is missing these many periods. They have an hour less. We thought that as much as we wanted to provide flexibility for the kids and for the teachers, especially with little ones, messing it up on those 3 days and having, like without that in there and then switching to basically another schedule would be more confusing for our students. But if we say, okay, Tuesdays, Fridays these are my periods on those days. Mondays and Thursdays are these days. I think it's easier for the kids and for us adults to know, okay, so today is Tuesday. That means I have period 2, 4, and 6.
Right.
Whatever it is.
Right.
You're showing a different one right now.
Well,
that's why.
Yeah. No, I know. And I like what you're saying, because you're bringing up the point that we've really had 2 layers of conversation, mainly around teachers talking about how we make this work for students and parents. And this was the original district model where it was really spread out through the entire day, every other hour. And when we thought about the impact on our students who have siblings in elementary school, and when are they going to be preparing? What do elementary school schedules look like? There's just so many variables that came into play. This is the second example where we put 2 periods back to back here. I called it the bundled periods as a way to give a gap in the middle of the day. We actually ended up scrolling on down, revising this in multiple ways based on teacher feedback to end up with this model 6, which was our draft plan. And on those Wednesdays, faculty are going to be engaged in a lot of collaboration going on, either as a whole faculty or by departments and PLCs. So this time is going to be extremely valuable, not only for our students in making sure they're staying on top of all their work, but also for our teachers, because the nature and the magnitude of the work has significantly changed and increased. Sorry, Sandra, I wasn't trying to cut you off there. I was trying to really emphasize what you were talking about.
I just wanted to explain to the parents why, especially when you look down into the calendar view that you shared earlier, why we kept Wednesday always as an asynchronous day.
Yep.
Because I think that might be important, especially for the parents on the council here, like why we're missing out. If Monday is off for whatever reason, then they are not having these periods. But I think overall, within those 6 weeks, the number of classes, a number of hours balance itself out. If I remember correctly, if you look at it, I think there's two days when we would miss the Monday class and twice where we miss the Friday class, I believe. And it balances it out at the end. I just wanted to explain to the parents why I think what we were thinking of keeping it so that there's a better plan for you at home. Because oh, it's Wednesday, that means they should be working independently.
Right.
Well, and for kids that have issues that need that kind of structure, it's good not to change their schedule for them. But I was just thinking when you all have to post your hours and stuff, it's like when you're getting them ready for college, because you have to figure out when the professor's hours are to talk to them and your class hours and stuff. So it's kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm not hearing any dissent on this. I'm sorry, Ms. Morris, you want to go ahead?
No, I said I like it. I think it looks good.
Cool.
And speaking of that, having doing the AB day last year as PE would get really confusing when we come back from a holiday, where we're off and the kids in. We ADA or B day coach them, so I think this is a lot better just to be like Mondays is, Tuesdays is, because if not, the kids are gonna get really confused.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think like before we had to do something like this with a regular schedule. I mean, if you miss a Wednesday, you don't like make it up on a Thursday. So I mean, it's been like that always. That if you know, we never did before try to make it sure that we have as many Thursdays as we had Wednesdays.
All right. Well, we have like 5 more policies to review. Is there any more? But I don't want to rush it. Is there any more feedback on that as far as any constructive criticism in the way of this schedule before I push it out to families?
Well, I have one question. How come you all are not having school on Oaks Day? I mean, I understand when it's actually Oaks Day, like when people are going to track, but since that's probably not really happening, how come JCPS doesn't have school?
That would be a Board of Education question. I
Okay.
wasn't part of the calendar committee.
Well, I didn't think so, but I didn't know if you all had any idea, because it's just, you know, because then they have 4 days off. You come back 4 days, they're off for 4 days, basically, so. Okay.
I don't have anything about what's on the calendar, just like a formatting thing, but I can email that to you later if that would be better.
Please, yeah. Okay. So even though it technically, that would have fit under policy 400, which has to do with the structure of the school day. So, you know, I think it's important for something as significant as this, it's vetted and looked through the lens of our leadership council. I should have started our meeting off, and I want to do this from now on, is starting off by reading through our racial equity assessment protocol, and then making sure. So before we, not that we're casting a vote, but before we come to consensus to approve the schedule, let's read the racial equity assessment protocol and make sure that we have those considerations in place. It would be, I think I included it in your all's, in the email and on the agenda. Let me see if I can put it up on our screen here. Let's see. Does anybody care to read it?
I'll read it.
Yay.
The Racial Equity Analysis Protocol. Number 1, what is the overarching purpose of the policy, procedure, or practice? Number 2, which racial, gender, or other groups could be inequitably affected by this policy, procedure, or practice, and how? Number 3, which racial, gender, or other groups will have the most concerns with this policy, procedure, or practice, and why? Number 4, what unintended consequences could result from the policy, procedure, or practice, such as racial or gender inequities? Number 5, have stakeholders, particularly those most impacted by this decision, been meaningfully informed or involved in the discussion of the policy, procedure, or practice? Number 6, what factors may be producing and perpetuating inequities associated with this issue? Does this policy, procedure, or practice deepen these inequities or improve them? Number 7, is the policy, procedures, or practice resourced to guarantee full implementation and monitoring? Number 8, who, such as an individual or group, is the main driver for improving equity for this particular policy, procedure, or practice?
Thank you. So we had discussed ways in which accessibility was a key factor both for students and for staff and students' families when it came to equity. And then it was also run through this REAP protocol when I sent it up the chain of command for approval. So it came down, back down from the district with the thumbs up as well, that this is aligned with best practices that are advised by the district. But while we were reading through that, did any questions or concerns about our structure arise?
Do we know if everybody got Chromebooks and has wireless that needs it? Because not all the students obviously have internet access.
Right, so there's a district procedure for requesting Chromebooks and hotspots. And last I checked, as of this morning, we still had enough hardware available for our students who were requesting it and are in need of it. And even if we ran out, the district has a procedure in place for providing that. And those are actually going to be distributed through our text this Wednesday, Thursday, Friday when we're doing distributions. And then on Monday, we're actually going to Mazik Middle School, where we have students who live, a lot of Atherton students who live nearby there, so it's a little more available for them. Okay, so are we good with the structure of the school day? Awesome. Well, I'll be, I'm gonna, after this this meeting, I'll go ahead and email our staff with the official structure of the school day. Then I'll put together a quick YouTube video that and accompanying attachment for parents and for students, so they can kind of start mentally preparing what that'll look like for them based on their schedules as well. All right, our remaining, we were, I'm going to say asked to complete some policy reviews to assure that we are meeting equity expectations with regards to other SBDM influenced policies or procedures, such as dress code. You know, dress code is not a state SBDM policy. However, it is, for us, we place the dress code in the student parent handbook, and the handbook is something that's approved by SBDM, which is really something above and beyond state requirement as well. But it's kind of our way of saying, hey, we really try to think through our policies, practice, procedures, the things we do. We try to look at them through a racial equity lens and bring them before a council, this leadership body, to really make sure we have a lot of perspectives, a lot of brains working on it to make sure we're doing kids right. So if you want to look at our dress code, it's in the handbook. It's the same dress code we approved back November of 2018. And it went through years of, or not years, it went through pretty much a full calendar year of vetting and reflection and discussion among our council on having our a dress code that was very much driven by a gender inequity as well as racial inequity influences. That's the wrong way to phrase it. It was a dress code that had, when you ran it through the REAP, had a lot of questionable practices and procedures in it that we just hadn't questioned in that way before. And in doing so, we drafted the policy that is currently available in the handbook for this upcoming school year. I guess it's, let me see if I can.
The student handbook available on the school website. I don't think I've actually seen the student one.
I think I attached it in the email, Amir, that I just sent out to staff. And it's also on the principal page. This is for our Atherton staff.
That's also in the email you sent out earlier.
Right. So all students will be getting this handbook when it loads. We'll be getting it at the materials distribution, but it's also available online.
Oh, do we need to bring the kids to that, or we just pick up their stuff?
No, you can just pick it up.
Okay, just checking.
I know it's in here. Give me a. Can somebody tell me what page it is? For some reason, the screen's too small for me to track it.
In the one you emailed, it's page 18 of the PDF.
Is it? Okay, thank you. I don't think I attached. Oh, I attached the wrong one. My bad.
Well, I think you have the wrong one open, maybe.
You're right. I do. Thank you.
It's right past the cell phone policy.
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute because I have to be careful since this meeting's being recorded. All right, let's try it again. And there we go. And, you know, I could repeat the same thing that we've covered over the last couple of years, but are there any concerns about the dress code as it applies to the racial equity protocol? What does this mean in an NTI setting? Honestly, I think we're going to be figuring it out. You know, I don't know. I've heard of schools saying that, you know, kids can't wear pajamas and stuff. We're not doing anything like that.
I think it might be kind of fun to have like Atherton on air do like a do's and don'ts kind of thing where they could like, don't go to the bathroom with your computer, mute when you're not on.
Make sure you at least have a top on.
Yeah, yeah. And don't stand up if you don't.
Have pants on? Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, they could do some, the kids could do some fun things together with, and that might be a good way, like maybe the second day or something, to have something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the imagery considerations may need to be applied to like the background though, because like they're not walking into school, we're walking into their room.
Right.
Is there any talk about like posters behind? Obviously, we don't want them having any of that inappropriate content on their blanket or the poster or, you know, their background or something like that, that we might need to put that in writing.
Well, I agree, Amir, but that might be hard to control or to demand because some kids have no control over where they are going to be able to go live.
Yeah.
You know, those are things that they might not be able to remove.
They should be conscientious of where they are, though, to the best of their ability.
And I mean, we can always mute the screen too, I guess. It's just if they try to do that intentionally, we need to have something to, you know, give us a reason to, you know, mute their screen. I don't know. Hopefully we don't have that issue.
If I turn my computer, you'd see all my naked pictures on the wall over there. Just but that's the thing. It's just
don't
like
stand up, Mike.
I know. I do have shorts on today.
Thank you.
Actually, Amir, you bring up a really good point, and I'm not trying to skip over dress code, but you actually brought up the whole discipline code thing, and that's actually under our policy review as well for racial equity assessment protocol, policy 700. Now, if you read policy 700, it basically says we follow the discipline code of JCPS and Board of Education. Within our handbook, we have some things a little more explicit as far as naming discipline concerns and the progressive level of discipline. But I want to let you know that, you know, I've already started talking with the administration about things as far as like, we still have a responsibility to be investigating concerns, to be dealing with virtual classroom management issues. Just sent out you know, an email this weekend to our staff saying, look, you know, I know we're going to have Google Meet security issues. We're going to have the potential that people are looky-loos, right? They're looking over, you know, mom's going to sit behind somebody and watch the meeting. There's really not a lot we can do unless it's disruptive, nor should we. We really want to encourage people to feel comfortable with this environment. And it's going to require us to stretch a little more than we're used to with regards to what that might look like. But we also want our staff to feel like they have the understanding and the authority to deal with things if it becomes too crazy, right? That something or somebody or someone or some environment is creating too much of a disruption to that synchronous learning environment. So that they have the authority to, you know, shut off their video or mute the person, you know, only have them there in presence, but not by volume, by audio or visual distraction. But that there's also follow-up, that if that occurs, just like if we were expecting a phone call to a parent for a disruptive behavior issue, then there's a follow-up with that. And if an adult is the one that's creating that concern, then they can follow up with an administrator, and we'll deal with the adult, because we want our staff to feel supported in understanding how to properly implement the discipline code in this environment here.
And it will also be a little important to be conscientious about what students are doing, about if they're taking screenshots and posting them in different places, or doing things to where that we're not providing a space to where bullying can happen from it. So that's going to be another thing to kind of be a little bit more careful with, because we can see them taking pictures most of the time in our classrooms, but they still do it.
Right.
Will the synchronous meetings be recorded?
Not necessarily, not if there's not instruction occurring.
Okay.
So if what we're advising as a best practice is that anything that has to do with direct instruction would be pre-recorded so that it's available for students and isn't consuming synchronous instruction time. Synchronous instruction should really be Q&A, interaction, engagement, student engagement, learning, not necessarily direct instruction. So so in theory, a student could be getting the direct instruction components of this outside of the synchronous instruction. The synchronous instruction is the time for engaging in that learning in a face-to-face kind of way. Does that make sense? So that engagement can't be recorded and simulated in a recording. That's the reason of having everyone come together. So
right. I was just, to Mike's point, you know, if they were taking pictures, if they were going to share a video of a classroom conversation, you know, that could be a problem too.
Well, we're not going to be able to stop that, unfortunately. I mean, that's going to be a nature of the game here, is that, you know, you all could be recording this through a Screencastify, right? And I've had no idea about that. If that works for you, there's nothing I should be saying or doing that would be anything that would be inappropriate to be replicated. Just like if a kid were doing it secretly, recording audio or video in a classroom, you know, we can't, as educators, we can't be recording something and then posting it in a public way that has the faces of children in it. We can't really stop kids from doing that, but we are gonna. So from our practice, there shouldn't be students in any type of recordings that are created from an instructional standpoint. And that's why we're trying to keep synchronous and asynchronous activity separate from one another.
And we as individual teachers and maybe as a school do need to communicate to students that it's inappropriate to record things if you're going to use them in a way that makes fun of someone or bullies them in different ways.
And then it becomes a discipline issue that we're going to have to follow up with as well, right?
Yeah.
We're teaching the culture, right?
Yeah. One of my first things I'm going to do next week is I'm going to have them do like post a photograph, a selfie of themselves that they like, along with some information that they want to share with the class. And then I'm going to have them do a private comment with another selfie that they like, or the same one, and telling me some things that they think I should be aware of, to where they're not feeling, they can feel more safe by doing that individually. But they're also letting other students know a little bit about themselves.
And I think most our teachers are planning on using the first week or two, building what does the classroom culture look like, right? What are our responsibilities in this environment? And we're figuring that out as we go along too. So it's, I understand it's a learning curve for everyone. So we've talked about structure of the school day, policy 400. We talked about dress code, which is not a policy independently, but it is a policy within the student parent handbook. So it's policy 701. Policy 700, which is discipline, and thinking about it from a racial equity standpoint and our responsibilities, honestly, in this NTI environment as well. There were 3 more policies. I'm going to go ahead and pull them up now that I was able to kind of find it, and we can kind of scroll through them. Policy 111, which is our homework policy. Which says students will have homework and they will engage in learning beyond the classroom. And I think now more than ever, this is relevant. And when it comes to looking at it through a REAP lens, the Racial Equity Assessment Protocol lens, just as Ms. Favre brought up, in the way of access for all our students who need it, and availability of the resources, we're working hard to provide access to all our students, particularly those who may be in a more vulnerable population in the way of traditionally being able to gain access to education resources like this. Policy, so I'm not skipping it. We can kind of circle back to it all, but I want to make sure we hit them all. Policy 300 is our assignment of students within classes and programs. And I want to let you know our staff, our administrators and our staff have really looked at eliminating barriers for that we create, structural barriers that we've created that may have prohibited students, particularly students of color, from accessing our classes that they want to take, and classes that will give them the type of opportunity for post-secondary curriculum and learning experiences in the way of AP and IB classes. So we significantly changed the course scheduling request booklet, the scheduling booklet, and the prerequisites for getting into classes. I think that there's a bigger discussion we've also engaged in, that is, how do we make sure that all students are prepared to be successful? And that goes hand in hand with also eliminating barriers that have traditionally held students back from being able to advance themselves at the rate in which they desired and were capable of and desiring to engage in. So, we are working hard to increase the representation of our students of color in our higher level classes through proactive means and reactive means. Proactive meaning eliminating barriers and preparing students from the freshman year on. And then also reactive, meaning we have clubs such as Helping Youth Perform Exceptionally, where students in higher level classes can engage in, students of color in higher level classes can engage in a collaboration fellowship, a support group to help them be successful and gain the resources, and frankly gain the voice too, because I meet with those students. Ms. Marables has meets with those students all throughout the week. All throughout the year in different points of the year, and they've it's really helped us create an avenue for giving voice to students and having an impact on structural things we create within the school. I'm going to pause there in case anybody wants to contribute anything to that. And I say that because we know that we need more students of color represented in higher level classes. We can't just say, hey, you know, they're coming to us from students are coming to us from middle school with an achievement gap, and therefore we can't fix it. I don't believe that. I don't think our staff do either. We do have to recognize that we can't just put all students into IB chemistry and say you're going to be successful. We're eliminating chemistry, we'll just call everything IB chemistry. We wouldn't do that. It's not in the best interest of students. But we do want to eliminate barriers that would have traditionally allowed a student that was desirous of that and had the potential to be successful in that, but they weren't carrying the AB average or something like that. We're doing our best to try to eliminate barriers. Okay, then I'll screen share one final one because we're reaching 250. And that is policy 601. There we go. Protection of instructional time. And this is another policy that was, I received the importance to, the notification of the importance to review from a REAP lens in the way Atherton approaches protection of instructional time. And I want to let you know, I think we do a really good job with this in the way of announcements and other things that happen during the school day. I think this is very different in an NTI environment, but the one thing we do are very assertive, that we're very careful with, and that is the number of times we're pulling students out of class. And we know that it's inevitable, it has to happen, but we try to distribute it equally, you know, among periods so that there's not everything's happening first period or seventh period. We try to, whether it's surveys or whether it's small groups of students that are meeting, we try to distribute it throughout the periods so as not to overly burden one particular subject or one particular period and having a negative impact on their instructional time, on students' instructional time.
Can you, and I'm sorry, I'm new, SOAP policy, what's the acronym for? I'm sorry.
Sure, it's in the student handbook. And it's we actually have posters around and stuff. It has to do with students being in their seat until the bell rings, only one student out of class at a time and things like that. So it's something unique to Atherton. Actually, long before I got here, they created it kind of as a cultural acronym.
Okay, I just thought that was the only thing that was a little ambiguous to me, but if it's clearly defined, then that should be okay.
Yep. No, that's a good question. It's kind of our way of keeping some order about when students are in class and when they're allowed in the hallways.
I was just thinking in terms of those subjective to objective considerations, and some things can be just ambiguous, like, you know, be respectful.
Right.
But it sounds like it's much more well-defined than that.
All right, we've talked about several things today. Anything y'all want to talk about that I might have missed that you want to make sure that we add to the agenda for the future?
The ones that we looked at, they will go on to the document as reviewed per today, right?
Correct. Yep. So that's policy, again, policy 400, policy 701 technically, because that's the one that says we will read the handbook, but we actually did that in the spring. We actually didn't actually review that policy. We just referenced that policy. Policy 700, which is discipline. Policy 111, homework. Policy 300, assignment of students to classes. And then policy 601, which is protection of instructional time. You know, not all SBDMs review every policy the way we do. We've done them every year. We've updated them. We've spent a lot of time on these policies. So, you know, I really feel like we need to keep it at the forefront of our minds, but I feel like we've invested a lot of time to make sure that our policies are responsive to even the flexible needs of NTI. So, any final thoughts or comments?
I have one, but it's about the SBDM application. The link doesn't work for me in the email you sent. And we're supposed to have done it by today if we wanted to be on the SBDM again.
The email that I sent, if you go to the website, what's that?
Which website, the schools or
The
just
school website?
Okay.
Yeah, it's both under parents and it's under the Google Doc that says apply here, but you have to open that in a new window.
Okay.
Either way, you've already sent me the email that says you're interested, so you don't have to worry about the deadline. But if you'll just make sure to get it turned in.
I thought maybe you just didn't want me on the committee anymore. That's fine.
I tried not to let you in. I forgot. I was like, no. You do great. I don't want to give up these pens. Y'all know that these pens look, yeah, see.
Well, our new teacher doesn't have one yet. He needs to grab one. They should be in the office still.
Final thought is we need to establish some regularly scheduled meetings. I can't have everything being special called meetings indefinitely. We can do regularly scheduled meetings virtually like this, and that's fine. With this NTI environment, you know, I guess it's, you know, we already know what teachers and my schedule looks like. Parents, what's available for you all?
Well, you know, my schedules varies just because of court, but so it doesn't really matter. Mondays are usually bad, but other than that.
Yeah, my schedule just varies based on my workload, but I can usually, if I know it far enough in advance, I can put it on my calendar and I'm fine.
Sabina, are you still there? Was that you talking? Oh, no, that was Julie, wasn't
No,
it?
that was me. Yeah.
Okay. Sabina, are you still online? Okay.
It looks like she is, but
Yeah.
and I'm probably going to be working from home for the foreseeable future, even though our students are back. So they're just trying to reduce the number of people on campus. So if we can be at home, we're supposed to be at home.
When do we traditionally have them? Mondays? I forget.
No, it's Thursdays.
Thursdays. Mm-hmm.
Thursdays, yes.
Okay. And then, so under this new NTI schedule, Thursdays, there would be class until 2:30, right?
Yes.
What if we switched it to, I'd rather have it on that shorter day for our teachers' sake, right?
Tuesday.
You know what I mean? Yeah, Tuesday or Friday, and I don't like Friday, so how about Tuesdays? Tuesday at what, 2:30? Would that work for our teachers? Would that work for our parents? Okay, cool. So let's say Tuesdays, and what Tuesday of the month? The I'm gonna say the second Tuesday.
We always had it on the third Thursday, right? Do you want to keep it on the third Tuesday for now?
Which would be tomorrow, which is kind of funny.
Oh.
Well, we can start it in September, yeah.
Yes.
So the third Tuesday of the month at 2:30?
Because we have our faculty meetings now on Wednesday mornings, so.
I like that. Okay. All right, third Tuesday of the month at 2:30 it is. Yay. Awesome. Hey, Miss Morris, Sissick Morris, you there?
Yes,
Hey, did you hear the conversation about the third Tuesday at 2:30?
I did. That sounds good. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, great. Well, cool. If that's it, we are at 3 o'clock, so that's perfect timing. So thank you all so much. Appreciate your feedback. Glad to have several people join us today. And I'll see you on the 3rd Tuesday in September, barring any other special called meetings. Cool. Ms. Terrell, I'll
you.
hang back. I see that you need to talk about something, so we can talk.
I have a question too.
Yes.
But, so my term is ending, right? So,
This month, yeah.
Me too.
so I won't be at the September meeting, right?
Well, we'll have to have an election before that meeting. So, correct. If you're not running again or
Okay.
reelected.
Oh, can I run for a consecutive term? I thought I couldn't run consecutively.
Yeah, you can run for back-to-back terms. Then you have to take a break.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I should have mentioned that. I forgot all about that, guys. Sorry. You and Mr. Klemper, right?
Yeah, I'm in the same situation.
Yeah. And then Ms. Falver is indicating she's reapplying as well. Hey, Ms. Terrell, can I call you back? Because we're still recording this from the SBDM.
Yes, of course. Sounds good.
Right.
Thank you.
Cool.
And
All right. Thank you all. Was that Mike? Did you have something?
you wanted to talk, Sarah and I, and you wanted to have a conversation.
Yeah. Can I follow up with you? Because I forgot I'm recording this. Let me call Ms. Terrell, then I'll call you right back. All right. Thanks. See you, Ms. Morris, Sissick Morris.